So about 2 years ago, Court from Electric Bike Review and I, along with Eric from Risa Mueller, went for a tour around the city and just showed the city and some of the bike infrastructure and what it's really like to bike around the city. And I thought, since I'm here now and it's Veterans Day, it'd be kind of a cool time just to ride around. And I think it should be cool. So let's do it. All right, so we're starting out here right at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. A lot of new construction over here, and they're totally tearing up the street, so you might hear that a little bit. But the cool thing is that they're putting in this new bike lane. It's been a really long project. I kind of wish that it was done already, but we're moving along, and I'm glad that we're making progress. What we've learned is that it's really not so easy to build infrastructure in the city. You just got so much going on underneath the ground that it's a long process. All right, so we got Tara up front. Gonna show yourself, Tara. Yeah, she likes to hide behind the camera, but a lot of this construction here is in relation to all this new development that's going on in the Navy Yard, as well as this kind of semi-protected bike path that they're putting on the right here. You can see the curb installation that they have here, but it's just been a huge project, but we're getting close to there. So this on the right here is Wegman's supermarket. It's been kind of a big deal. It's a really large supermarket, and they offer quite a bit of options. Actually, just gonna cut through the parking lot here. It's kind of cool. So this supermarket is still a family-owned business. It started out in Rochester, New York, and this is the first one in New York City. Yeah, and I guess they're gonna put in a lot of retail space over here as well. It should be interesting. So yeah, this is all the Navy Yard here. They have a distillery over here that they have a tasting room. It's King's Distillery right here on the right here. Kind of cool. And then here we go on the bike path. We're gonna go up towards the Manhattan Bridge. So this is part of the Brooklyn Greenway. That bridge right ahead of us is the Manhattan Bridge. So there's cars, trains, cyclists, and pedestrians. On the north side of the bridge, which we see here, is where cyclists cross. On the south side, it's for pedestrians. And in the middle, we have different layers for cars and trains. Could get a little noisy on there. So over to the right here is Dumbo, actually. So the name Dumbo is down under Manhattan Bridge overpass. So this is the Manhattan Bridge overpass. And so basically the neighborhood is under the Manhattan Bridge. There aren't many hills in Brooklyn or New York City, or at least in this area. But one of the bigger ones is actually just going up the bridge. On both sides, the approach is a bit hilly. So we actually have a lot of people that end up converting to electric bikes because they need some help going up the bridge, especially when they start carrying kids. That's kind of becomes one of the more popular scenarios. So this is Dumbo, kind of down to the right here. That is Pearl Street. You could kind of just see it. Actually, my barber's down there, Barber on Pearl. And we're about to cross over the East River into Manhattan. So I'm scaring Tara a little bit right now. They're going about 27 miles an hour. But we're keeping it safe. And this is Chinatown here. So this bike lane changed a little bit. It used to be a one-way. They made it into a two-way bike lane. And it's pretty nice. So yeah, we're down in Chinatown. We're on Christie Street here. Pretty lively day. It is Veterans Day, so a lot of people are off from work. Sometimes people are not always so great about bike lane etiquette, staying out of the bike lane or crossing the bike lane or these sorts of things. But that's okay. It's a little challenging at times because the infrastructure is not always so clear or prescriptive, so people don't always know where to go. We're going to go down a bit of a bumpy road, but fortunately we're on a full suspension bike and I think we can handle it. How's it going, Tara?
It's good.
All right, let's see how this goes. People often wonder why we want wide tires in New York and suspension. That's why. It's actually a pretty nice day to do this because it's not quite as crazy as it normally would be. This is Mulberry Street. This is kind of Little Italy area, so a lot of Italian restaurants. We're kind of actually on the north side of it, so we're just at the tail end, but and then you get kind of into the SOHO area, which SOHO stands for south of Houston Street. I kind of like this sign. It's an interesting thing to see on Veterans Day on the right here. War is hell. It kind of is. I think that I can agree with that. Had that experience, and I would say it is hell. Something I definitely would not do again by choice. All right, so we're here on Lafayette. Now there is a bike lane, but it's a little bit occupied at the moment by a UPS truck. I hear that UPS might start using electric bikes in other cities. I know that they've been experimenting with that in Portland. It's actually interesting because we were just in Amsterdam, and you notice that people are a lot more respectful of the bike lane in Amsterdam than they are here. I don't know, maybe it's because people are not that familiar yet or what it is, but, and this is Houston Street. So now if we're in SOHO and we cross Houston Street, where would we be? That'd be NoHo, north of Houston Street. I could appreciate this. We've got a little detour bike lane here. It's always nice when they make those accommodations. So the big thing in this area is NYU, there's a couple other schools, but pretty nice. Might not necessarily give the exact impression what it normally is like to ride around New York City because it's Veterans Day. So it's a little more relaxed than normal, but I think it's good for this sort of thing. So we don't have a very specific destination today. We're just kind of cruising around, check out some parks, ultimately probably cruise through Central Park, go through Times Square, some of the usual kind of tourist spots, and just enjoy the day. So this is where we're on Broadway here, and NYU is over on the right. I mean, actually, there's buildings of NYU all over the place, but some of the main campus. This is the Tisch School of the Arts on the right, and we're gonna go actually through the park over here as well. So let's do that. So we're gonna go through Washington Square Park, which is straight ahead. You see the big fountain. It's a pretty iconic park in New York City, but you can see all the NYU campus, and there's dorms in the area, that sort of thing. They have a lot of programs for veterans, and appropriate to talk about on Veterans Day. And something I've been thinking about doing. Not so easy to do from California, but I'm definitely interested. So we can't really ride through the park, but I'm gonna just walk the bike with Tara in the front so we can kind of get some first-hand perspective going through the city. Got some nice music playing over here. It'll be cool. This is New York. You really can't beat that. Fix that in post.
He'll make it in post.
And this little archway on the right here is a monument that's pretty iconic and quite common for people to take photos and that sort of thing. So it says, let us raise a standard to which the wise and the honest can repair. The event is in the hand of God. Straight down there, down that, you can see that's the Freedom Tower there. So that was built in honor of this fallen in 9/11. All right, so we took that little detour, and that's one thing. There's no shortage of things to do in New York. Gonna cut back to the east side and continue heading north. It's one thing interesting, you know, jaywalking in New York City, it's kind of a way of life. I moved to California, I noticed that people don't actually jaywalk really that often. Soon we're coming up on 14th Street. Some pretty major changes to 14th Street. So they largely eliminated all passenger vehicles from 14th Street. It's just really for buses, deliveries, I think at certain times, and they are ultimately going to make some changes to the infrastructure there. And this was largely because there was a plan to shut down the L train that runs through that way, and they wanted to really supplement some of the additional traffic that they might find using buses and other forms of transportation. Ultimately, they decided not to fully shut down the L train, which is a really big deal. But they're still going through some improvements to the street for transportation, which is nice. It was not necessarily the most popular idea, but I think that as it's been going through, I think a lot of people are pretty excited about it. So let's do a little detour through Union Square. It's turning into a bit of a park tour. I guess this they're building up probably for the holiday season. Just gonna walk through here, give people a little bit of a perspective. I mean, I guess that's one of the nice things, right? Like if we were driving in a car, there's no way that we'd really be able to stop and just kind of take a peek at what's going on over here. But really quite easy to do with a bicycle. I'm not sure if it's every day, but it's certainly often where they have this Union Square green market. And people also sell, I think if you're selling kind of handmade goods, you're allowed to do that in most public spaces throughout the city anytime. But if you're selling other like manufactured goods, you need to have some other sort of special permits. This is kind of cool. This is a city bike trailer and pedicab set up to rebalance the city bikes. All right. I think he's got a little electric assist on there. And we got some bike lane crowding going on here. Hopefully this is what this experience is like. It's not really necessary though. You know, like you look over to the right, they got plenty of room, but of course, choose to be right up in the bike lane. I mean, I guess at this point the markings for it are pretty minimal. All right, we are back in the excitement. This is New York for you. This is Midtown. We got a delivery rider ahead of us on a Van Moof. Guy ahead of him on a nice little Brompton. And as you see, we don't really follow traffic signals around here. But we're gonna do that. We're gonna wait here. But again, yeah, you see some people got some flags and stuff like that. Not too much remnants of Veterans Day, but we're getting a little bit of that. Got Macy's over here on the left. But I gotta say, one thing I'm always pretty troubled by is the idea of ambulances trying to navigate through the city and all the traffic and everything like that. And really, there's just, it really makes you wonder what's wrong here. A lot of the streets are shut down today for the Veterans Day parade. But I believe the parade is over now, but still kind of sorting through that a little bit. Maybe next year we'll try to be in the parade. That'll be fun. We were in it a couple years ago. The Wounded Warrior Project had like 11 electric bikes. It's been a little hectic over here. We're right by Times Square, and I actually saw a bunch of guys with the same patch that I had when I was in the Army, and I thought I might know one or two of them, but I didn't know any of them. I was in the service, I guess, like 14 years ago when I got out, so it's been a little while, and not many people that I know are still in the service at this point. So, but cool little anecdote. This is Bryant Park, I believe. Yeah, Bryant Park on the right here. They also have a little skating rink over here. We're getting close to like where Rockefeller Center is. So up on the right here, a couple blocks up, is Radio City Music Hall. Buddy, can I cut through here? Thank you. We got to make sure you get approval first. Not doing that that risky maneuver without. So this is kind of the exit to Central Park. You see all the horses and everything over here. There we go. So this is Central Park. We're kind of on the southwest side here. And we're not going to do the whole loop. We don't have as much time as I might like to get through this, but we'll get through a little bit. We still got some nice foliage on the trees and stuff, so it's kind of special. We don't get too much of this in LA. Look at that thing. I don't know what they call that exactly. Some sort of...
Segway without handlebars.
Yeah. It's moving pretty good on there though. They're going 20 miles an hour. I don't know, man. Those things freak me out. I feel like I would lose it. Got some live music going on here.
Nice copyright claim.
All right, we totally had to pull off and capture this lovely lot of dogs here. Oh, so adorable. All right, now we'll get back on the loop.
That was important.
This was really important. So we're just going to take the half loop through the park here. Don't really have time for the full loop today, but still a nice little ride through the park. I think this is around like 72nd Street or something. They're doing some construction here, but you can just get a quick peek at what goes on down here. Seems like they're posing for a massive photo. It's like a whole high school or something. All right. Way to enjoy the holiday, for sure. All right, we're in Columbus Circle. Let's have a little excitement. Trying to hop into this bike lane for a second here.
Why is the bike lane so far?
And then we're gonna roll around here. And we're gonna take a little peek through Times Square. And then I think we might end up calling it a day. So sometimes when there's not a bike lane, we just take a lane. But it's helpful if you could keep a reasonable speed, that way people don't get too upset. And this guy riding ahead of us actually looks like he's riding a Yuba. And it's a company called Max Delivery. And we supplied them with their bikes a couple years ago. They're right here on the left, Max Delivery. Not working with them at the moment, but it's an online grocery store. Pretty cool. So this is Times Square. We're getting into it. All right, so this is 7th Avenue, Times Square, full of cars. Actually talking about pedestrianizing Times Square. Making Tara a little nervous here. It's really a pretty wild job being a traffic cop in New York City. Just all right, so it was a little treacherous to ride right over here. Just way too much car traffic, so figure we'll just walk you guys through here, get a little first-person perspective, what goes on in Times Square. I mean, the one thing to consider, there's a lot more public space, like just pedestrian space. I mean, most of this, years ago, was just dedicated to cars, and it was really controversial to pedestrianize this area, but ultimately I think most people are pretty pleased with this, with the result here. Well, I enjoyed riding around with you guys. I hope you enjoy the little tour around the city. We'll try to do maybe a little bit more in-depth one, maybe in the springtime when we have some more time. But I just thought this would be cool, Veterans Day, and nice day weather-wise, just to tour around the city. So look forward to seeing you in the future. All right.